Grab those IOD molds. We're going to make some ornaments today.
Dainty flourishes, olive crest mold, trimmings 3, lock and key mold, ginger and spice, unicorns, vintage brooches, invitation only, Christmas tapers, angelic tapers, and Santa sleigh.
For several of the projects today, I have used some wood cutouts that I cut out myself using my Creality Falcon A1. If you would like to check out the wood cutouts that I have available, they are on my website. This first one is my absolute favorite. I am using IOD air dry clay. You can use any kind of air dry clay that you want. I just recommend that you use air dry clay instead of resin for today's projects. I am going to be casting several of these little presents inside of Santa's sleigh mold, and I'm going to use those castings to cover the base of my ornament that you see here. So for this one, I am going to spread these presents all around the bottom, allowing them to layer over each other and even using partial castings. So don't forget to think of your molds as kind of just your initial inspiration, and then you can go from there. You don't have to use the molds exactly how they come, the same way that you can cut transfers up, the same way that you can use stencils and then paint over it. The molds are the exact same concept. So don't feel that just because a certain piece does not fit perfectly where you want it to on your project, you can't go ahead and just cast half of the mold instead of all of it, like I did on this bottom present here. When working with air dry clay in your IOD mold, take a moment to gently smooth the clay with your fingers, pressing and rubbing lightly toward the micro rim. This helps create a flat, even back onto your casting. By doing this, you'll not only get a cleaner release from the mold, but you'll also ensure better adhesion when you glue the piece to the project. A smooth back also helps prevent gaps or stress points that can lead to cracking as the clay dries. If you are just starting out and not necessarily ready to invest in IOD molds, another option would be any of these other type of molds that you can get off of Amazon. They're very inexpensive, not necessarily as easy to use, in my opinion, as IOD or some of the other more quality brands, but I will say that they do provide you with a very similar result and can really embellish your piece. Here is our frame. We've now have all those castings dry. I did put a base coat of a creamy white, but this is going to be the fun part. Now we're going to embellish the inside of this frame. Now I feel like my personal go-to, and probably for you too, is to just take another mold and put it centered in the middle of that frame. But I wanted to do something a little bit more fun and whimsical with this piece. So instead of doing that, what I decided to do was to take two of the gingerbread little castings from this ginger and spice mold by IOD, and I want to have them popping into the middle part of this frame, or the inside part of it, from different angles, and have it look like, again, a little bit more fun, a little bit more lively and different. One of them is going to be positioned so that he is popping in almost upside down. And then I did cast another one of the little girls, and I have her coming up from the bottom right. Now, just like we said that you don't have to use the full casting, you can use partial castings, and they are perfect for filling in those small spaces or adding detail without overwhelming your design. You also want to think about different ways that you can bend your castings when filling them in to your project. You can create curved shapes that fit kind of edges or round frames, unique surfaces, and trimming or layering your castings allows you to make completely new looks. In this frame, I'm going to be taking pieces of the lock and key mold, and I am casting them and allowing them to act as the frame on the outer layer of this ornate cutout that I've created. I absolutely love how that looked, so I ended up casting two more of them for another frame that I had. And then I wanted to try doing a similar technique using one of the trimming molds castings. Now I know in this clip you see that I have painted the frame in red. I do end up changing that up, so don't worry about that right now. What I want to show you here is what I did with the inside of this frame. On the backer piece to this ornament that I'm creating, I'm going to use the Christmas Tapers IOD mold, and I am casting just Santa's face. I do cast a little bit more than what I need, and I will use just a little plastic knife to cut out the pieces that I'm going to keep so that it fits perfectly inside of this little frame. Now, the magic of editing has a lot of this cut out, but you do want to make sure that you're prepared for the fact that it's not going to be a perfect cut and a perfect fit every time. You are going to have to work with this a few times to figure out the right placement because you don't want it to look awkward if you are cutting off parts of the casting and then having it kind of sit in the middle and then there's space between that casting and the edge. The best way to make it look more cohesive is to have that casting go all the way, bumping right up to the edge of your frame. Once I have that all cut out, I go ahead and glue on the frame first. And now I'm taking my Type Bond Quick and Thick, which is probably one of my favorite glues to use for this type of project with clay. And I am going to spread that glue all the way to the edges of my casting so that as it dries, it doesn't curl up or come apart from the backer piece. Now, somehow I lost the last backer piece for this third frame that I have that has that more ornate look to it. But that's okay, we're gonna figure this out. I decided that I'm going to glue it to the back of this other rectangle wood cutout that I have. It has almost the exact same size hole in the top middle, so I can position it right in the middle and allow that to kind of be an embellishment within a larger piece. This is the frame that I used with the Trimmings 3 mold, and it's the shortest of the trimmings that are on that mold that I cast for this piece. I felt that the angelic tapers would be a perfect mold to use for the inside part of this frame. I then grabbed the Dainty Flourishes IOD mold and I am casting the little pieces that will create perfect corners for each of the sides of that rectangle and allow this piece to look a little bit more cohesive. It won't feel as much like a kind of like something I just put onto a slab of wood. It actually will have a little bit more ornate detail in the corners. That's kind of the look that I'm going for. It's not perfect, but I am really happy, and it's always so much fun to see how you can bring a variety of different molds together into a project. I think that these went really well together, but I would love to know, what do you think? All right, I know I said that the first one was my favorite, but this one is the one I'm the most excited about. When the unicorns mold came out, I think it was in the summer release, if I'm not mistaken. I got it right away because I wanted it specifically for ornaments. I love the unicorn mold for ornaments because there are so many ways that you can make it super frilly and fancy and girl friendly. So it's perfect for like a sister or daughter or anybody who loves the glitz and the glamour of unicorns. I know that the meaning behind this unicorn mold is not necessarily that, but that is the first thing that my brain jumped to. So that's what we're going to do with it today. We're going to create a beautiful unicorn portrait or headshot and use some other molds as castings around it for a frame. As you can see, I don't have a frame around this specific ornament like I did for the other ones. I did not cut this to be that way. This is actually the ovals that were inside of that larger frame that you saw at the very beginning of this video. What I decided to do was to grab the outside part of one of these brooches that came in another set from IOD this year, and I cast it in two halves rather than casting the entire rim. I did the bottom half and then I went around and got the top half and made sure that I had enough of an overlap so that they would come together in the middle. When I added this on, I did end up clipping off a little piece of that unicorn's horn. Is that what it is? I don't know. Does it have another name? Let me know in the comments. My brain can't think of it right now. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and glue that around the top. So there is a little bit of an overlap, but I didn't want it to be so obviously bumping over that horn. So I did pull it out so that it would be cohesive. But again, I was very careful to make sure that that casting that was on the inside went all the way to the frame so that it looked like one cohesive piece. For these last two ornaments, I thought it'd be really fun to use some of these old chip brushes that I have. I don't usually use them in my actual painting as much as I used to, so I thought it would be fun to try this out. I know that there's lots of people who have done different types of decor using chip brushes, and I wanted to kind of give my own little take on this. I actually have two chip brushes that I'm using today. One already has the hole punched out, which I'm super excited about. The other one did not. So I'm going to do something a little bit different for each. For one of them, I am going to be casting part of the Santa taper that is on that Christmas tapers mold. But because of the fact that the tapers mold is positioned in a way where Santa is at the top and the skinnier part of that taper is on the bottom, that wouldn't work in the same way if I used it all in one shot. So I'm casting the base or the lower part of the taper first, putting that onto the handle of my brush, and then I'll be casting Santa's face and positioning it on the bottom part of the brush. For the second paintbrush, I decided to use the snowflake or one of the snowflakes that's on the Christmas tapers mold, and I'm going to be doing a similar effect. I'm going to be casting the top part of that taper and almost positioning it upside down onto my paintbrush, and then grabbing another piece to use at the top. You will notice that I ended up using the base of one of the other tapers for the top of this paintbrush. I really like the fact that this one with the snowman had a different base to it than the others, and I thought that it would be a little bit more cohesive with the piece that I ended with on the taper next to it. This is another great example of how you can manipulate and use these molds in different ways to create different effects on your projects. Here's one more ornament that I created using the olive crest mold to create the part around the ornament, and then the invitation only fox as my middle piece. This was a really fun one too, and after creating this one, I decided to go ahead and paint all of them in the same color. I could go in and do detailing and all that. I don't think that when I'm thinking of making and selling a craft, I need to make sure that I understand that I only have so much time and I want to create beautiful ornaments, but I also don't want to get lost in the details. So instead of going in and detailing and trying to paint every teeny tiny little detail within these gorgeous castings in the colors to make them kind of stand out, I wanted to create a more cohesive look and a cleaner look by just painting everything the same color. So I'm painting them all in vintage gold, which is a fusion all-in-one metallic paint. And then I'm going to come in with some dark wax to bring out all the details. All right, here's a little bit of a confession. I did not finish all of the projects for today's video. I am promising you that I am going to show you those finished projects as soon as possible. I will post them in the community tab here on YouTube, so make sure you stay tuned. But an even more important announcement is that this coming Tuesday is my birthday, and
It's time!
that's right. It is the IOD holiday release for 2025, and I am so excited. As you can see, I was completely inspired to craft all of these things, use all of these molds today, because I just am so eager to see what we are going to have available to us on Tuesday. You are welcome to use my affiliate link. It is to juliesdesignsandsigns.com, and I will leave a link in the description box. Make sure that you sign on at exactly 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, because she offers a very special bundle where you can save $100 and get everything you want for only $9 flat rate shipping. There is no better deal. I know I'll be there. I hope you'll be there too. Don't forget, the link is down in my description box. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you on Tuesday.